All right. Well, yeah, we'll get going. Another fun episode of the OhJordzOhShow. My fun guest this week, you see him all over. You see him with every single major company in the world, it feels like. Uh, Brian Myers, thank you so much for being on the show, my man.
What's up, dude? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, good deal. Well, Brian, there's a big sect of my audience that doesn't necessarily know of you from wrestling. If you just want to introduce yourself and let people know how they know you.
Sure. My name is Brian Myers. I've been wrestling professionally, professional wrestling, not high school or college or what. Sometimes people when they don't aren't a fan. I always tell my wife this actually. It's like when I meet somebody new, if they are a fan, they have like 20 something questions. And then if they aren't a fan, they have like 20 something questions. They're just different questions. And that's just kind of like the life I've gotten used to because it is odd. But I've been a professional wrestler for 17 years, and most of that has been with WWE as Kurt Hawkins, and currently with Impact Wrestling on Tuesday nights on Access TV. I'm having a lot of fun, enjoying myself there. And I'm also the host of the Major Wrestling Figure podcast. So I'm a podcaster as well, and that's a very hard to describe, but very fun podcast I do with my lifelong friend, Matt Cardona, and we basically dig deep into all things wrestling merchandise and memorabilia, especially toys.
Right. Now, when you say about the questions that like people that don't necessarily know about the wrestling, is it always like the same questions? Like, so how many times have you wrestled Hulk Hogan? Does it hurt? And does your dick ever pop out of your trunks? Because that was the questions I always got.
Things like that, or like, how does this hurt? Is so and so a jerk? It's just like, I don't know. I need to figure out a way around it because it's just one of those things like I really don't like. I don't look forward to it. You know what I mean? If we're at like some kind of something for my daughter's school or something, I'm just like, oh God, I'm trying to avoid these other dads and dealing with these questions and stuff.
I've had people in bars go like, "Oh, do you mind if I put you in a headlock?" I'm like, "Absolutely, I do mind. That is my personal space. Please move away."
My go-to line is usually, "I'm off duty today or tonight or whatever's going on. I'm off duty, so don't worry about it."
Yeah. So you definitely rose like through the mid 2000s. Do you remember when social media became really big with pro wrestling, or when you were with WWE? Do you remember when like
So
Twitter got huge?
the first time it's funny, like right as I got signed, like Facebook had become a thing that like anyone could have. I remember when I was in college, you had only certain colleges could have Facebook, and that's how it started or whatever, which is making me sound really old right now. But by the time I got in WWE, it became like a public thing, like where anyone could, make an account. Um, and I remember there was that really lame, like WWE Universe, I think it was called. And it was like this lame fake WWE attempt at Facebook where we had like fake superstar profiles, but we had like access to it and we could like, I guess essentially write like a blog or something. But it didn't catch on because it wasn't cool. It was like behind the curve and pretty lame. And then for some reason, I'll never forget this. I want to say it was in like late 2008. We were hanging around ringside, like shooting shit. And the Miz was like, "Hey, look at this. This is this thing called Twitter, blah, blah, blah. Look, like Fred Durst just posted this. Now I know like what Fred Durst is doing right now." And I'm going, who the fuck cares what Fred Durst is doing ever? This is the dumbest thing. This is never going to catch on. I was like, I just didn't get it. I was like, this is so stupid, dude. And I was very, 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 very wrong.
Well, and WWE had they had Tout for a while too, right? That was like the 50s.
That was like years later, which is even more pathetic. We're deep into Twitter now than there was Tout, but that was, I'm pretty sure WWE bought into Tout allegedly, and that was just another lame attempt.
Were there, if you can't answer this, it's fine, I get it, but were there guidelines as superstars, as like active talent for what you guys should post at the time when Twitter like got so hot and got new?
You know what? There wasn't, and then because WWE had such a blind eye to it for so long, so like the guys that actually were using it, I don't think anyone of any importance knew, and I think that's one of the major things if you really want to look into it, like how Zack Ryder, did what he did and became such a sensation and got over and stuff because he was using this tool that WWE pretty much didn't even know like really existed at the time. You know, they were turning a blind eye toward it or not caring about the numbers and stuff that it was producing. So it took a long time. I mean, it should have got wrestling's attention faster than it did, but the guys that were using it really took advantage of it.
Right. It seemed like it was a little more widespread, kind of on the indie level with like Cabana and those guys, you know, just because they were staying at home more and they were trying to get their names out there. So I understand why WWE was so behind it.
I just don't think they realized how many people were on it and
Right.
how many people were there sharing information and opinions and, you know, things that I think matter when you're a fan of something, you know?
For sure. Well, yeah, it's no different from like the AOL like message boards and chat rooms, stuff like that. 10 years, 12 years before that. So no different at all. So you mentioned the Major Wrestling Figure podcast. That's huge. Do you guys have? Do you typically try to go with like a posting schedule for the episodes, or do you just kind of post it when it's up, then when it's ready?
So that's another thing. Like, as far as social media goes, that even when we started that in 2018, we were like, it's just a podcast. We don't need social media accounts. We'll just use our wrestling ones, and it is what it is. And then we were like, so wrong about that, to where like we had to make a Major Wrestling Figure podcast and YouTube and Twitter, obviously, and all these things. And then it's gotten so big and so successful and so out of hand, we actually 2 months ago had to hire a social media guy who's like literally on payroll, and he's the one doing it now because it just became too much for us to all handle.
That's awesome, though. That's like,
I mean, I think that speaks volumes of how important and how powerful I think, you know, social media is in the modern era.
you guys just like put out an ad on Indeed, or was just looking for someone that you knew?
What's that?
Did you like put out an ad on Indeed or something, or did you try?
We wanted to find someone who was actually a member of our Patreon, you know, or at least someone that we can, you know, trust to begin. And then, you know, we had a little process, and there's someone that we were familiar with, so get a leg up, and he's done an incredible job.
Oh, awesome! Shout out to that guy. That's really cool. Yeah, that's definitely the dream. Where that's one less load for you guys to do, and then you can just produce. And you can just be talent. So
yeah,
that's awesome. Going back to the podcast, you guys have a ton of figures. I've never been an action figure guy with the wrestling stuff. I think my most prominent one I had was a crappy hardcore Holly toy that I like painted over his head to make him bald and made him into Stone Cold. That's probably my best favorite figure I had. What is your, if you can pin one down, what is your favorite figure?
My answer to this is always kind of strange because I don't like my collection. To me, I don't look at it like dollar bills. It's just kind of sentimental to me. You know, these are things I fell in love with in my childhood. It's kind of like, you know, the only thing that keeps me like attached to that, you know, my childhood. You know, I can't go in a time machine and become a kid again, but this is the closest thing I can get to those, you know, sentimental feelings. And I really have always, you know, attached pro wrestling to that. It was only, you know, I discovered it when I was 5, pretty much at the same time that those Hasbros came out for the first time, and they were like the link to like me finding this product, and then there's that, and then I was just, you know, forget about it. So like they're a big part of my life, really. You know, it shaped who I became. So I don't look at my collection like, well, this one's worth $1 zillion, and that's why I like it so much. So when I answer this question, I just say my favorite figure is the ECW Chris Candido Series 1, because he didn't have many other figures, and he's my favorite wrestler ever, and it's unique, and I just think it's cool. But you could probably get it on eBay for $20.
Have you gotten any figures from eBay where like you open it up and you're just like, what the hell? Like, have you ever just been either ripped off or disappointed in a figure?
Oh, dude, eBay is a cesspool. Okay, let me just tell you that. Like, it's corrupt carnies and liars and cheaters and snakes. So I mean, you got to beware. You know, it's a mess. And, don't get me wrong. There's some nice people there. Like I just had. I mean, this is probably boring content, but I bought a Hacksaw Jim Duggan Hasbro this week that I wanted him to sign in a month or two at this signing. The one I bought and the one I got was not the same one in the photos. I was like, yo, what the heck? You know, so like that's just what happens. You got to be on top of it, and it's weird, especially selling on eBay. Beware, because it's weird. Like you're like powerless. Like all the rights go to the buyer for whatever reason. So if there's a dispute, forget about it. So I in the pandemic, when it first started, I got so bored. I got into baseball cards after like not collecting them for 20 years, and the whole sports card industry is like on fire right now. So it's like a lot of fun to be a part of, but man, does it get ugly, especially when you're dealing with like high end stuff, and it's just ugly.
Do you love the hustle though? Like, do you get like a rush from hunting down stuff or selling it for a good profit, or?
I used to. I get a rush from selling merch at my gimmick table, and rush from that. I don't get a rush from just like an eBay sale where I'm like, I don't know where this is even going.
Right. Well, so you mentioned the Chris Candido figure. If you had to pick either that figure, since he's your favorite wrestler, or your entire collection, which one would you keep?
Oh no, that'd be silly. I have to take my collection. I mean, it's. I couldn't even tell you how many figures there is anymore. I mean, thousands and thousands and thousands. I mean, who knows?
Do you keep them in a safe spot? Are you worried about a fire, or?
I don't like the term man cave. I think it's lame, so I call it my playroom.
Okay.
I have a playroom, and it's
We're losing you. Hello?
Initially when I moved house a couple of years ago, I was like, well, if I can't display it, if I don't have room to display it, it's got to go. I've broken that rule just time and time again to where I have like totes in a closet full of stuff that I don't even have room to display. So,
what your wife's cool with it? She's just go after it.
Yeah, she's always been cool with it. I think now more than ever, it's basically like my job to be an active member of like the collecting community, So I think it is what it is at this point. Like it's like I have to be involved in this stuff, Yeah. I can't just like talk about these things every week on this podcast without living the life of it. It wouldn't work.
Yeah, that's very true. Well, man, I'm sure you're probably getting pretty close to home. So if you want to plug your accounts, plug your upcoming shows, anything and everything you want, get after it.
Yeah, really, we talk about the podcast enough. Seek it out. It's unique. People that don't even like collecting have been pretty enamored with it, just how bizarre it is. It's really just kind of me and Matt Cardona, aka Zach Ryder, just bearing our souls, pretty much. So if you haven't listened yet, check that out. And what I really want to say is check out Impact Wrestling on Access TV. I know a lot of people wrote TNA Wrestling off, Impact Wrestling. It was basically on its deathbed, but it's back, and there's a lot of really good professional wrestlers there, and putting on really good quality wrestling shows that I think people need to come back and get eyes on it if you haven't seen it in a long time.
Awesome. Thank you so much, man. We see you down the road at some point, Oshkosh at some point.
Oh yeah, I'm coming December 4th to Kill Avalon, so everyone can be there for that.
Please do. That guy's a son of a bitch. F that guy.
Hit him upside the head with that shovel he's got.
Sounds good. Take care of yourself, brother.
Later, bro.
Yeah.